I am here with Maureen Mahoney. And now Maureen has been a Flawless Fellow for over 2 years. She's someone who has taught me a lot about how to be a fellow. And she actually recently graduated from the University of Michigan with a degree in public policy. But like many college seniors, she has been directly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. So today, we'll get her thoughts on her experience. And thanks for joining us, Maureen.
Thanks for having me.
So diving into it, Maureen, how has life been since the start of the COVID-19 crisis?
It's definitely been interesting. I was at school when everything was first announced. Luckily, we had just finished our spring break, so we were back at school. I think at first we didn't really realize the impact of everything with everything the media was saying. So at first, were just excited. We had classes canceled for a week. And then, everything went online. And, with all the bad rep that our generation is getting for how we dealt with the COVID-19 response, we made sure my friends and I we stayed just in our house with our friends, which was 9 of us. So, it wasn't really boring with just us. But, always wore masks out, only went out when we had to. It was a lot of adjustments, but we made the most of what we could for the last 2 months of our college career.
Yeah, it's been so tough for college students, not only just like socially and everything, but also academically. So can you just tell us what is it like? What I know a lot of college students are calling it Zoom University. Like, what was it like ending your senior semester, with online classes?
Yeah, that was definitely weird. Actually, when we got the announcement, I was in class. And so it was like 5 minutes left in class. And I was like, wow, this is my final class of college. This is weird. And so this semester is actually only in 2 classes. So it wasn't too hard for me to adjust. The only thing was they were both very, very discussion-based classes with like 15 people. And so it was an adjustment going to online, but it ended up working well. All my teachers were very understanding of the situation. If someone couldn't get their work done because they were dealing with something related to COVID, they understood that. And in my house, we actually turned our front hall into a library. And so we had like 2 tables and desks where people were just able to do their work. And, it was hard to find that motivation sometimes to be writing a paper in your bed and stuff. But we all still did want to finish the year strong and keep it as we had been doing for the last 4 years. And one of my classes is actually about values and ethics in science and technology policy. So that class was interesting because we actually kind of switched up the syllabus a little bit to be talking about COVID every class and how values plays into it and how the policy landscape surrounding it, given that it's something that we've never dealt with before, affects everyone equally and, especially helps the most vulnerable populations. So it was interesting to kind of incorporate it into these classes and kind of just seeing how this pandemic is affecting every sector of the world and everything in your life. And so, yeah, it definitely did take some adjustment to be working online, but I think we got the job done and the teachers were great with it.
Mm-hmm. And not only not only were you dealing with the transition of being an online student, which that's something that all students everywhere had to deal with. But as a senior, there's just so many traditions and festivities that you and your fellow seniors are missing out on. So, how's that for you? And what do you think you'll miss the most?
What I'll miss the most about the school in general, I think a lot of the times when we were reflecting back, we didn't want to just think about our college experience as, the Corona experience of the last 2 months. We wanted to remember that we did have a full 4 years that were great. And so just the school in general, I think one of my favorite things was, the school spirit and just the community that it provided. You going out and you see someone wearing Michigan, you shout a "Go Blue," and just that spirit and community you have with someone you don't even know is really awesome on game days and things like that. That's about the school. I think also just living with and being, living on the same block as all of my best friends, not having to make plans to hang out or do this or that. And, just being there and having that community is something that I'll really miss. But with the traditions and festivities, I think everyone was very upset that we won't get to graduate in the big house this year, which hopefully we will next year, they're saying. But that's one of the things that all of the seniors look forward to, and just all the end of year stuff. And so we were all really sad about that, but we kind of did our own makeshift graduation on the day of last week. So all of our parents sent us balloons and cakes and stuff like that. And we all did, my house and I, again, which is like 9 of us. And so we did speeches, made fake diplomas out of paper and string, and gave superlatives to each other, and Zoomed with all of our parents. So we made sure to still have our own celebration instead of the big house, which granted would have been better, but we wanted to make the most of what we had.
Yeah, and I'm definitely so sorry to hear that. Like, I know it's so tough to miss out on that experience, but I just love the creativity that you all brought to it. And so you mentioned living with your friends in a house. So at Michigan, were you guys allowed to stay on campus?
So the people that were we live in an off-campus house, and the people that were living on campus were instructed to leave about a week after they they put classes online. The problem was a lot of my friends were from California, Colorado, New York, New Jersey, and so they didn't want to fly home, especially because at the beginning those were the epicenters of COVID. And so we thought it was safer, and we didn't know if we were infected yet, though no one had symptoms, but we didn't want to go home and bring it back to our family. And so we thought it was safer to stay on campus in our house.
Definitely a mature decision, but a tough one because you're making the sacrifice of staying safe, and you guys are all together. But I imagine it's hard during an epidemic to be away from your family. And you mentioned earlier that you just recently got home. Like, how tough was that? There's so much unpredictability about the crisis, and you're away from your family. I imagine it's really tough for you all.
Yes, it was definitely really tough. One of my friends' grandparents actually had COVID. And so, dealing with the news from everywhere, especially with everyone being from all over the country, it was hard hearing different things. I think one of the really cool things, though, was, as I'm sure for most people, was that this social media has brought people together more than before. Like, I Zoomed with my family much more than before. We would do it I had 3 family birthdays in April, and Mother's Day and things like that. So before, it probably would have just been a happy birthday call or things like that. And then it turned into bringing the whole family together, and even our family group chat became more active. So it was staying connected in a different type of way, and always keeping each other updated. Like, okay, this is what's happening in Michigan now. This is what's happening in Maryland now. And so it was scary not knowing that I wasn't with my family, but they were also doing the same measures at home. So I felt safe that they were here and I was there. And especially before I had come home, I did do a strict 2-week quarantine in my house, not going to the grocery store or anything. So I was sure that I hadn't brought it home to my family.
Well, we definitely appreciate you being responsible with that. And something else I want to talk about is the University of Michigan Out of Darkness Walk, which is something that you have led for a few years and something that Flawless has sponsored. So can you just tell us all more about it and how it was affected by COVID-19?
Sure. Well, thank you to Flawless for sponsoring the past 3 years. That means a lot. So I've been fundraising chair for the past 2 years, and Out of the Darkness is essentially the University of Michigan's club for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And so what we do is raise money all year, where half of the money we raise goes back to our campus activities, such as mental health first aid, things like that, where we can fund it for students and they don't have to pay anything. And then the other 50% goes to AFSP National, where it goes to research, advocacy, support programs, things like that. And so the past 2 years, we've been the #1 and the #2 fundraising campus in the country. And so we had kind of a goal to meet this year. And obviously everything was changed this year. And weirdly enough, at one of my leadership meetings with the Out of the Darkness team, that was one of the first times that, the impact of this pandemic really hit me. I broke down at one of the meetings realizing that, so this event, it usually happens in April every year. And it's essentially a walk through the University of Michigan campus. And it's called Out of the Darkness because it essentially means bringing your feelings, fears, mental health challenges, grief, all of that out of the darkness and into the light so that you can get that support, you can get that community from all of us. And so it's supposed to be over 1,000 walkers every year. We have speakers from AFSP, from the Michigan community and all of that. And so obviously that was canceled. But that didn't stop us. So we went virtual. One of the big things that changed was the fundraising. We felt that it wasn't really the right time to be pushing fundraising on this, with so many people losing their jobs and having to donate to other things where people don't have access to food right now because of the pandemic and things like that. But we wanted to make sure that this message wasn't lost, because suicide prevention and mental health resources are needed more than ever right now in this pandemic, with everyone dealing with social isolation. And so we continued our efforts. And the day of the walk, we had a virtual walk. And so we had a Zoom in the morning where the AFSP director and our walk president spoke. And we did a little video from everyone that was from people that were walking. They say why they're walking, who they were walking for. So that was the first part of it. And then we encouraged everyone to go out on a walk on their own or with whoever they're quarantined with, and post that on their social media and say where they were walking and how far they were walking. And so that was a really, really cool experience, because it was, again, people were home, people were at school. So it was from all over the country, people posting, and just seeing how much people did still care about this really showed a lot and meant a lot. And overall, it still was a success.
That's amazing to see how you adjusted to the tough circumstances with everything with the crisis. So kudos to you for that. That's just amazing. And, I want to go back to something you were mentioning earlier, how, the University of Michigan is a school that attracts students from all around the world. You talked about having friends from California and Colorado. And I know you were able to stay close to some of them, but I'm sure you also had to leave, abruptly, a lot of your good friends. So, what was that process like, seeing friends go and, not knowing the next time you're going to see them again? And, for those friends that may have left, how have you, remained in contact and connected to them during everything with the crisis?
I think that has been one of the hardest parts of this. As I said, I was with a lot of my close friends, but I think the last few weeks of senior year, you kind of realize all those people who may not be your immediate friends that have made an impact on you, the people that you've had classes with over the past 4 years, but you're only friends in class, or my coworkers at the restaurant I worked at, people I see in the library, or people that I see when I go out. It's those people who have definitely made an impact on my college experience, and it's something that you kind of have to process, and that I feel like you do when you're about to leave. And so I never really got to say goodbye or thank you. And even teachers and professors, ones that I've had in past years, I was hoping to go into office hours and say thank you and goodbye. But due to this, I wasn't able to. So to stay connected, one of the things I've started doing, actually, and especially because people were leaving campus at different times, most seniors do live off campus. It was kind of up to their own discretion when they were going home. So it was just a constant flood of emotions. One day, one of my best friends would be leaving, and then a week later, one of my other friends would be leaving. And so it was kind of just a roller coaster of emotions. And same with all of my friends. It was all hitting us at different times versus just having like a final closure. And so sometimes I would be the only one sad while everyone else in my house was happy about something else they were doing. So it was hard to process. And so one of the things that I started doing was write, they're originally called plain letters, where you write a letter to someone and then they're not supposed to read it until they're on the plane home. And, obviously not a lot of people are flying right now, but so I started sending emails to a lot of my friends that had left, just saying thank you for all the memories and support and love that you've given me over the past 4 years. And I just think they've all responded saying, thank you. This is so unexpected. This really means a lot to me. And then obviously with my close friends, we still are texting in our group chat every day. And our first week away from each other, we've now already had 2 Zoom calls. We're planning trips tentatively, in the future sometime when we'll be able to together. And so it really just is staying connected in any way you can, phone calls, even just like sending each other memes on Instagram, like anything we can do, it means a lot.
Yeah, and as somebody that's admittedly super bad at saying goodbye, I can't imagine what that roller coaster of emotion has been like for you. Like, I know it's just really tough. So, that's why we're here to show love to the class of 2020. And something else that your class in, particular has to deal with is just you're graduating into an unpredictable future. So, first of all, congratulations for graduating.
Thank you.
But, now that you graduated, like, what's your plan? What are your goals? How are you going to navigate these tough times?
Yeah, so as you said, I have a major in public policy, and I sort of have been doing a focus into criminal justice, healthcare, specifically mental health, and the education system, as those 3 kind of all tie together. And so I'm sort of looking for a job that in any of those areas where it's either researching that policy, put this policy analysis in this time is so crucial, as this is something that this country has never experienced before. So I'm really looking for something where I can make a difference in the world or in someone else's life. And I'm really interested in working for a nonprofit. As we talked about, I was a fundraising chair for Out of the Darkness, and that has been one of the favorite positions that I've ever held. So I'm looking for positions like that where I can be raising money for something like that that's such a good cause. And with the policy degree, I really am open to a lot of different routes, whether than if it's that nonprofit route or going into more the policy world and getting my and helping actually make the change at the systemic level, whether it's working on the Hill or something like that. So stay tuned. We'll see what I get.
No, definitely. And as somebody that has, had the privilege to work with you, to anybody that's watching this, I recommend Maureen 10 times out of 10. She is an amazing worker, a flawless worker. So, we all know you're going to land on your feet. But, the last question, which I think is my favorite question, most important question, what are you doing to practice great self-care, during this time?
So I really once I got home last week, that was such a big change from school to here. And so I was like, I kind of do need to figure out what my schedule is going to be. And so obviously self-care is a big part of that. And so what I did when I got home was I kind of started a schedule for myself. So I am now training for a 10K in August. So that is kind of how I start my morning, going on a run or doing some other type of workout, and then spend a few hours working on job stuff. And then I'm also working on a political campaign. And so it might not seem like self-care on its surface, but just having a schedule in my life really regulates me and helps me like stay mentally focused and mentally okay and not stressing out. Whereas like I should be spending all my time doing this, or I'm not doing anything. And, you know, if I'm doing something each day, then I know then at night I can give myself some time to relax. And I've been doing a lot of reading lately. So that's definitely been good because during the school year, I don't have as much time to, you know, be reading for fun. Whereas instead I'm reading really lengthy school academic books. And so just getting back into that workout and reading schedule has been really beneficial for my mental health.
Yeah, that's awesome, especially the schedule thing. But I like how you said, you know, you work in the day, so you know at night that you can give yourself time to relax, because that's actually this, you know, this like strategy. It's called like a dopamine detox, where like you work hard during the day, and then it's just more rewarding at night to do the things that you want to do. So that's interesting that you say that. But yeah, I mean, so many great tips, so many good resources, Maureen. I definitely appreciate you taking the time to hop on this call and have a conversation with me. For the Flawless family, if you want more from Maureen, you know you can find her with her Mondays with Maureen on our Instagram highlights. We always love those. But, you know, just hang in there, Maureen. Keep going. And thank you again for joining us.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.